Well, hello and good evening. Welcome back to IIRL on Twitch. Hope you're really well. Apologies for the slight silence for 3 minutes or so. Hosting the lobby tonight, so just making sure we got all the settings as they should. Plenty to get through tonight. Evening, TD. Hope you are. TD will be joining us shortly, whenever he's home. Bored at work. Fair enough. Brum. Bloom, get out me car. In case you missed last week's race, we had an absolute cracker. AMS Fairley taking the win. Who else did well? Ross came second on the podium, and alongside on the podium was Ryan. Ross leads the championship by 38 points, and he's not here tonight. Full standings can be found with this link here. Mr. Wiggles second in the championship. Lost 18 points on Ross last race. Wiggles not scoring in Canada with, I think, a late DNF, but he was classified. So an opportunity here for Wiggles and Ghost Tamino, who sit third in the championship, to catch up to Ross. Ghost is 55 points behind here, so even a race win tonight will leave him more than a race win behind Ross, our leader. Driver starting to leave the pits now. We'll do a little bit of a track tour of this beautiful Silverstone circuit, which we all know and possibly love as well. In the Constructors' Championship, if my page will load on my computer, which it isn't. That's annoying. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the Constructors. I hope you are really well. We are now into round 10, almost at the halfway mark in this season, season 3 of IIRL. It's been very up and down, plenty of dramatic moments, plenty of brilliant racing, plenty of overtakes. It has been a very fascinating season, and I'm sure in the second half it's going to be a lot more feisty, jockeying for position in the championships. I'm sure that this track will provide us with some great entertainment here tonight. You can go side by side, wheel to wheel on a lot of these corners, so expect to see a lot of action here tonight. Usually not a track where plenty of safety cars come out, plenty of runoff area on the exits of corners, so again, not something to worry about, people going into the walls and crashing, but John will take us on a lap of this beautiful circuit. Might seem like a lift for turn 1, but you are flat out there into turn 3, heavy braking zone, just missing the apex there, John. And through turn 4, pick your acceleration on the throttle very nicely. Through turn 5 down the Wellington straight, you do get some DRS, and this will be a big action point in the race as well. Into Brooklands, the left-hander which tightens, and the very long right-hander called Luffield. very popular points for drivers to go side by side, so watch out for that. Into Copse, some can take it flat, some can't, depending on your setup. It's the very famous Maggots and Beckett's complex of corners, and through Chapel to finish off. Let the car run wide, let it roam free down the Hanger Straight. Again with DRS, very popular action point now into Stowe Corner. Overtakes on the outside and inside are possible there into this final few corners. Plenty of side-by-side and wheel-to-wheel action capable here. And through the final corner, back onto the Hamilton Straight. And John is currently setting the pace on a 1:28.3. So IIRL, standing for International Independent Racing League. Emphasis on the first I, international. We have plenty of nations in this league, however for a lot of these drivers here tonight, this is their home race. So best of luck to those racing in their home race, not only tonight but this week. We use telemetry in quali, but not in the race. Hoping to not have my Silverstone curse, even in Deton. Hope your curse is lifted here tonight. Greg, currently 5th fastest as things stand. Still plenty of time to improve your times. Evening TD. Evening Goldilocks. We will remind people, if you have been in Discord, you know. If not, we will let you know what's going on with the stream this week. So 7 times on the board. 3 on outlaps, the rest in the pits, so maybe people just finding their setups. This is a this is a track where different types of corners and elements to this track actually combine to make a very varied setup. So you will see a lot of people running kind of mid wings, around 25s, 20s, that kind of thing. You might see people doing different suspension. Tyre pressures, obviously, since this new patch will be quite low. And tyre degradation on this track has always been notoriously quite bad, so expect those tyre pressures to be almost at very minimum in the race. Certainly in qualifying anyway. You've got fast straights, you've got Hanger Straight, Wellington Straight with DRS, you've got tight, twisty corners, especially in sectors 1 and 3 as Thaddeus Bear goes off at Copse, which is just one of numerous fast flowing corners here, especially Maggots and Beckett's as well. High speed corners, so you've got everything here. If you run heavy, if you run high wings, you're going to be really good in sector 1 and towards the latter end of sector 3. If you run low wings, you're going to be really good on those straights. But really the balance is trying to find something in the middle, something that will accommodate everything, so you're not losing too much time in qualifying on a straight line, but also something that will keep you in competition with other drivers during the race in the corners. So setup here is key. And fortunately we have no idea what setups people are running. We'll just have to speculate from the spectator seats. Thaddeus Bear currently slowest, 1:30.7. Greg Stars is out on a lap, as is Prev and Fairley. Still 5 drivers yet to set a time, still in the pits, so plenty of time for them, 10 minutes now to come out. Of course, Q1 is not about being the fastest, it's about not being the slowest 4. Bottom 4 will be heading out of Q1, and they will already know their starting grid slots. Fairley goes fastest on a 27.9. That will most probably send him through to Q2. Those in the 28s are pretty close at the moment. We've got John on a 28.3, Joseph deflated and Ryan all on a 28.4, separated by less than half a tenth of a second here. So those in the early 29s might be a little bit more comfortable. Maybe Greg and Tidy's Bear will have to go out and try and improve that time. As for my prediction for pole time, I have no idea, TD. I have not driven this track yet in the last certainly month or so. So I have no idea what people are capable of. Greg Stars slots into 9th, reserving tonight in the McLaren. And Deaton has backed off his time. Prev has popped in his first lap of the day to 29.0, puts him currently 6th fastest, as Deaton's teammate Ghost is back into the pits. No invalidation there, but might want a brand new set of tyres, might want a bit of a tweak, tyre pressures or something like that. Some quali sessions you see everyone get a banker lap in. Doesn't seem to be the case tonight. Still over half the session gone now, and still 7 drivers yet to set a time. Low 27 to high 26 for pole, basing that off time charting times I've seen some do. Okay. Well, we will look out for the low 1-minute 27s. Currently only 1 in the 27 and only just in the 27, so maybe TT gives really fast times compared to a qualifying session, but track evolution is the thing on this game. The track will continue to improve throughout quali, through first session and sessions 2 and 3 as well. So we may see some people drop into the low 27s during Q2 or Q3. Deaton sets a banker, a 1-minute 50.4, but obviously that will not be quick enough, so Deaton is on another lap, just coming up to Maggots and Beckett's now. Pete comes across the line and goes 100th of a second slower than Prev. Currently slots into 7th place, which is not too bad at all at this moment in time. So Deaton then. Someone going off track just to get out of the way there. Looks like a Williams of someone, possibly Ryan or Joseph. Only one of the top 7 in the pits right now, so maybe people are getting a few practice laps in before this quali session really hots up. Deaton does a 1-minute 29.8, head of Greg Stars into P11. That guy on his first flying lap has invalidated. And what about Mr. Wiggles? 2nd in the championship, hoping to push Ross all the way in this championship, and Mr. Wiggles will be hoping for the title of his own. Pushing the limits of the track here, Mr. Wiggles seems to be making this track wider than it actually is. Through cops there, almost looked like he was going to invalidate, but nailed it to perfection. Final sector is really all about keeping that backhand in check and getting as much throttle on as you can. Mr. Wiggles is rewarded for a nice little lap there, 128.2. Currently second fastest, and will definitely be quick enough to get into Q2. That guy will start a new lap. First one was invalid. Smaller Smiley just coming around the first corner there. Oh, as Ghost goes for a bit of a spin at Luffield. And obviously this lap will be ruined, but Ghost here maybe under a little bit of pressure. Got 4 minutes now to set a time on the board. Good enough to get into Q2. Off recent form, we're not expecting that bottom 4 to drop out of Q1 here. I know Smaller Smiley's dropped out of Q2 a couple of times recently, but certainly not in Q1, so maybe Tidiest Bear, Greg, Stars and D-Tom might be the ones to be under a little bit of pressure right now, even though they are technically safe in their positions. Smaller Smiley just running wide at Cops. Might see that a number of times this week. And Smaller Smiley just cutting the corner of Maggots there. Possibly a bit frustrated with himself, put on too much throttle through Chapel and goes for a spin and gets disqualified for being the wrong way. Well, that is something. Smaller Smiley then, starting 19th and last for the race. Obviously TD will be 20th once he joins. And that guy, not the quickest time we've ever seen from him, but currently safe. Tidiest Bear under pressure. Ghost, after that spin, did come round to complete the lap, a 1 minute 33.4, but is on another lap as we speak. Both Haas cars are out on laps as well. Greg Stars out on an out lap as well. Deaton's still in the pits, but still plenty of time for him to come out as well. So we're looking pretty close in that midfield there between Prev, Pete, Colucci and Dayman. Only less than 2 tenths separating those 4 drivers. Obviously it's pretty close at the top, with the exception of Fairley, who is currently 3 tenths to the good. Tidiest Bear just running wide there at Maggots and Beckett's. Still 3 tenths up on his time, and actually didn't get invalidated, so a little bit fortunate perhaps. Tidiest Bear running out of ERS, so he can't go for another run directly after this, but might have to have a lap of cooldown before one final flurry. And there is an improvement from Tidiest Bear, but not enough. Perry Jerry, first lap won't count. Has crossed the line, but no time on the boards. Suggests an invalidation to me. Don't know how long's left. It's about 1 minute 30. Perry Jerry here under pressure. Has impressed me very much so since joining the league this season. Hasn't raced all the time, but when he has done well. Hey Fairley, how you doing mate? Good evening. Nice lap there in Q1 as Ghost does get a faster lap on the board and goes third fastest. That'll send him through to Q2. No problem whatsoever. Yellow flag in Sector 2 for an Alfa Romeo. That might be Ghost on a slow lap. All is well, mate. I have a new headset, which means you won't hear any crackling. I might even sound different. Oh, and Perry's just had to lift off there through the exit of Stone not to get invalidated. And with only 14% battery left, this is going to be Perry's only real opportunity at getting through into Q2, and he does. Goes 7th fastest, puts Greg Stars now into the drop zone, who goes 10th fastest of his own and gets himself safe into Q2, pushes Deaton now into the drop zone. And if Tidiest Bear, Greg or Deaton can beat that guy in the AlphaTauri, that guy will be out of Q1, which would be a shock. just running over the inside curb of Chapel is Greg, but doesn't get invalidated. Might have lost time there. That's why he got away without an invalid lap time, but time to beat is a 1:29.6 for Greg, and he didn't quite fancy it on this occasion. Deton, though, is on a lap. Thaddeus Bear also coming through Sector 2, but remains to be seen how much battery he's got left. Deton here needs just over 0.2 of a second if he wants to jump into Q2 ahead of that guy. Around the final couple of corners, onto the Hamilton straight, and goes 14th. Nice lap there from Deton. Big gains in that final sector, and pushes that guy out of Q1. I have to say, it's a bit of a shock. Thaddeus Bet, this one's invalid. So he'll be starting in 18th place. IIRL Greg will be starting 17th, and that guy 16th on the grid after Smaller Smiley disqualified from quali session. There you have it for Q1. It got quite exciting towards the end. Late flurry of activity out on track. Just glad to get out of Q1, mate. That was a good time under pressure. Good. Almost 7/10 improvement on your PB to get you into Q2 there. Nice lap there, Deton. And currently, as things stand, the drop-off to Q3 is only a 1:29.0, so Deton with that 1:29.1 might not be too far away from a spot in Q3. So fairly leading the way. Of course, it's not about who's quickest in this session, it's about who's not last. Wiggles, Ghost, John, all pretty close. Close group within half a tenth. Joseph, Deflated, Perry, Jerry, and Ryan, all four of them super close here. Blue into the top 10. Greg, Prev, Pete, Colucci, Deton, Dayman, all making it through. That guy starting 16th, Greg 17th, Tidy's Bear 18th, and Smaller Smiley with that disqualification. I think that was his AI who got him disqualified, but remains to be seen. Evening, Kate. Hope you're well. So Q2, I imagine, will be a lot closer. There's about 1.2 seconds, something like that, separating the top 15. I imagine there'll probably only be a 7 or 8/10 gap between those at the top and those in 9th or 10th place. It's going to be very competitive. There's a long track here at Silverstone. But expect to see some pretty close times, especially those at the top. Plenty of drivers heading out. First out is Flu. Tell you a bit more about our streams this week. Something interesting happening. We've had it before this season, happening for a second time. Before we do that, thank you for the follow. Pinnock24 supporting Perry Jerry here tonight. All the best for Perry Jerry. And thank you for the follow, Pinnock. Hope you're well. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy the stream this week. Just writing a paper or more so procrastinating? Tell me about it. my uni days were all just procrastination. It's procrastination, McDonald's, and a whole load of wiping my hands at the last minute to get my essays in. I feel your pain. So this week we have sponsor for the stream, Goldilocks Creative, who has been in chat already, might still be in chat. For all 3 streams this week, in case you're not aware, 3 streams on this channel every week. Tuesday we have the No Assist Bunch, Thursday Assist Tier 1, Sunday Assist Tier 2. For all 3 streams this week, whichever driver gets Driver of the Day will get a £15 Xbox voucher, courtesy of Goldilocks Creative. So thank you very much, Goldilocks, for the sponsor. Appreciate that. And the way the Driver of the Day is going to work, at the end of each stream, the streamer will choose 4 or 5 drivers who deserve a shot at Driver of the Day, and then in the Discord, after the race, there'll be a 24-hour vote. And whichever driver of those 4 or 5 gets selected and voted for the most, they will get Driver of the Day and a £15 Xbox voucher. So best of luck to all the drivers. And I'll just mention as well, Driver of the Day doesn't have to be whoever gains the most places in a race. It could be possibly for someone who qualifies pole, doesn't make a single mistake and comes through to win the race. Could be someone who does gain a lot of positions from their starting grid slot. It could be for someone who maybe has had the best overtake in the race and deserves Driver of the Day in that way. It could be anything. It could be someone who keeps it clean, doesn't get any time penalties and jumps up on the grid. So absolutely everyone has a shot here at Driver of the Day. And I will reveal all the winners on stream next Tuesday. Next week, for round 11, we will be in Austria for the 2nd sprint race format. I'll tell you a bit more about our sprint race format later on. Times flooding in now, 4 of them on the board as you can see. Prev 28.9, flew into 4th on a 28.7. Deflated Weave replaces Flew in 4th. Joseph Hales is in 3rd. Mr. Wiggles 28.0, best lap time we've seen from him tonight. John goes into the 27s, 2nd driver to do that here this evening. Goes to Mino 28.4 right now. And Perry Jerry invalidating here in Maggots and Beckett's. Dayman hasn't done that though, comes across the line to set a 1 minute 28.8, goes into 7th. Absolutely love this track. Let us know what you let me know what you think about this track in the chat. Always, never fails to throw a dramatic moment or so. Someone crashing at cops or going off at Maggots and Beckett's or getting a time penalty that will ruin their race or massively affect the podium picture. Always seems to happen here at Silverstone. Plenty of places for overtakes. Oh, Deaton just invalidating there at Stowe and ducks into the pits. Go on board then with Ryan, who we haven't seen a lap from him so far today. Plenty of time in the session. Remaining 9 minutes to go. Very committed on the exit. Can invalidate there at turn 4 before this reasonably long straight. Be careful for that. We'll see some people hug that inside curb at Luffield. Some people drift wide. Some people stay relatively in the middle of the track, like Ryan just then. Full lift there from Ryan, but kept plenty of beans in the can. Nice Maggots and Beckett's. Maybe got a bit of understeer through one of the corners there, but no harm done really at this stage. Not too bad there through Stoke. Across the line, Ryan. Pretty good lap time there, 1:28.1. Goes into 4th. Joseph Hales has done an improved lap, I think, maybe? Maybe not. Maybe I'm imagining things. Wouldn't be the first time. Deflated Wee then, currently 6th fastest, jumps up ahead of Ghost into 5th with a 1/10 improvement, or a few tenth improvement. And Pete in the McLaren, his teammate, currently 11th fastest and slowest of the timed runners so far, but still 4 drivers yet to set a time. One of those is Fairley, who is, I believe, coming through Sector 1. Hello, Demon. I have to admit, the last few races where I've had a co-commentator, it has been very warm and very friendly. It's weird going back to just me, but I'm a big boy, I can manage. No tears. Well, not on stream anyway. Pete, round the final corner, setting his first lap time. It's a 28.4, not too bad there. 100th away from Ghost. A little bit unfortunate perhaps to be behind him, but so far that's a pretty good lap there from Pete. Has a 3/10 gap behind to Flute. Fairley rejoining the grids now that crossplay is enabled, and that's a good lap. 27.5. Very nice as well. I'm sure that will be beaten in Q3 by someone. It's Fairley showing his hands, says at Q1 time, I can do better than that. Deaton's still in the pits with 5 minutes left of session. Scrap that, he's just come out of track. You wish. You wish, Demon. I haven't got the voice for it. Perry Jerry goes 3rd fastest. Head of Mr. Wiggles. Decent lap there from Perry, and Ghost has flown to the top of the timing screws. 1:27.2. Where did that come from? TD's currently at work, but he'll join when he's back. So he'll be starting last on the grid. Colucci into the pits now, as Prev is out on a lap time. Currently has to beat a 1:28.7 set by Flu, who has just done that, increasing on his personal best. So Flu is the time to beat if anyone wants to get into that top 10. Prev will need just over 0.2 of a second here. And through Sector 1, just under 1/10 up. Starting last, finishing first. Starting last, finishing last, yeah, probably. It's alright, I can take the mick out of TD. So Prev sporting that limited edition livery from the Ferrari. limited edition McLaren livery will be dropping on the 11th of October, which is the same date where the Ferrari will be leaving us. So, Prev, make the most of it, mate. Currently P9. Might be able to see more of that livery in Q3 as things stand. We have an Alfa Romeo at the top and at the bottom of the timing screens as things stand. Deton, I don't want to say narrowly made it into Q2 because he didn't. But it might be more of a struggle to get into Q3 here. We'll see what Deton can do through Sector 1. Another P6 for Joseph. Honestly, if you finish P6 in Q1, Q2, Q3 and the race again, I think I will eat some of my own hair. Please, no one flip that. Greg Starr's on a flying lap, as is Dayman. Colucci back out on track, currently 13th place, hoping to get into Q3. Pete's time of a 1 minute 28.474 is the one to beat right now. But even if Pete improves by a couple of hundredths, it'll put Prev as the time to beat. So them two will be a little bit nervous right now. There's a couple of drivers near the top in the pits and retiring from session. Deton, can he get anywhere near his teammate? Is currently 14th fastest and still needs just under a second if he wants to make it into Q3 as things stand. What about Greg Starr's 7/10th improvement through Sector 2, 1 second improvement through Sector 3, and pops himself, as it stands, into 9th and up into Q3 spot as at the moment. Dayman, though, this is an invalid lap time from him, so he'll have to go again, and has been charging the battery. My controller batteries are low, so I may have to change them. If I cut out, that'll be why. So Dayman will come round to start a brand new time. Mr. Colucci likewise. Pete and Flew out on track. Flated Wheeze even back out on track. Maybe a little bit nervous there. In 8th place. Colucci, quarter of a second up in the first sector. So far, so good. Oh, and that spin has just dampened his hopes of getting into the final part of qualifying here. Oh, so unfortunate. Easy to lose the back end there through Brooklands and Laffield. And unfortunately for Colucci, that will be all she wrote. Deton goes for one final run where he needs a whole second in his final time if he wants to make it through. Pete now has dropped into the drop zone, but as we said, even 10th of a second will get him above Prev, maybe above Greg as well, whose session has finished. So Greg and Pete will be, and Prev, sorry, will be watching that timing screen. Great intensity over the course of the next few moments. Dayman crossed the line. It's going to be no improvement on his personal best, and he'll start 13th on the grid at best. Deflator Wee coming up to the end of his lap is quarter of a second up through Sector 2, but invalidates in Sector 3, and all of these bottom 3 out on track are in this middle portion of the lap. It's make or break, it's crunch time for these three. Deton 3/10 up, but still not quite enough. Might get ahead of Colucci and maybe Dayman as well, but as things stand, maybe not looking so good to get into Q3. Has Pete behind him on track. Pete will be hoping that he isn't losing any downforce, being close to that Alfa Romeo. Deton, no improvement, and Pete jumps up to 8th place on a 28.2. pushes Prev out of qualifying. And what has Flu done? Flu stays in 12th place in Q2. So very close, that threshold between 1st and 10th. Not quite as close as I was expecting, but Ghost leading the way on a 27.2 fairly pretty quick. And between the next 8 drivers, only half a second separating them. Greg Stars slipping into Q3 ahead of Prev by half a tenth of a second. So Prev starting 11th on the grid for tonight's race. Flew in 12th, Dayman 13th, Colucci 14th and Deton 15th. 5 different constructors heading out in the second part of qualifying. Q3 gets underway then, and battle for pole position is possibly a 2-horse race here tonight. Will it be Ghost versus Fairley? Will someone else throw their name into the hat? But certainly maybe a low 27 or a high 1-minute 26 could be what we're looking out for here tonight. Thank you for the follow, Fuzzy, in Q2. Appreciate that. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoy these streams. 3 streams a week. A couple of new follows here tonight. Is a bit more information about our league when we race. TD is here. So we'll be starting 20th on the grid in the Ferrari tonight, replacing Chivers, who has got some kind of broken seat or apparatus that he races on. Let's get your predictions in chat nice and early, next 30 seconds or so. Who you think is going to get pole tonight? Is it going to be Ghost or Fairley or maybe someone else? Let us know in the chat. If you predict right, you get an imaginary cookie. Quite a long track, as we said, so still plenty of opportunity to get some good track space. You can see there's a few people going pretty close there through Maggots and Beckett's behind Joseph, but apart from that, should have plenty of space out on track to get a nice run in. Still Perry and Pete, 2 P's in Q3, still in the pits. And the hot laps get underway. Joseph Fairley, deflated wee. John coming across the line now to start his time. Then we've got Ghost Tamino coming around the final corner, followed by Ryan. So 6 out on lap times right now. They're going to come thick and fast. And we know possibly what kind of lap time we're hoping for or expecting to see. Fairley pole with a 27.0 with Ghost a few hundredths off, says Josh G. We'll wait and see how accurate that prediction is. I am here. Hello. Hello here. I am Sam God. Joseph coming to the end of his run. Pete coming out of the pits in the last few moments. Perry Jerry still in the pits. Might be going for just the one run in quali. Joseph Hales, 27.6. Pretty good lap time there. Personal best from Joseph here tonight. It's fairly goes fastest on a 1 minute 27.3. Ghost next across the line. What can he manage as Deflated Wee pits after his opening run? Ghost Tamino goes fastest on a 27.1. Ryan, not the quickest we've seen tonight. Definitely can improve on that 1 minute 28.2. Yes, it is a terrible joke, but that's why I made it. Terrible jokes are the best kind of joke. Wiggles crossed the line, 27.8. Ordinarily that'd be a pretty decent run, but compared to those top three, not quite as good as Wiggles was hoping for, but still pretty good for P4 at the moment. There's a bit of gap behind to Ryan. It is a cracking dad joke. Gets them every time. I use it at my workplace with young people. Can't say they appreciate it, but I don't care. John crossed the line. It's a 27.7 ahead of Mr. Wiggles, but behind Joseph Hales. As Pete now comes across the line to do a 1 minute 28.3 ahead of his teammate by a 10th. Sure that McLaren team bragging rights will be on the line here. And Perry Jerry on a lap for the first time in Q3. 6 minutes left. Half the drivers out on track, half of them in the pits. Mr. Wiggles coming to the line. Possibly for another flying lap. Almost impossible on this game to do 2 flying laps in a row with ERS. Uses up about 70, maybe even 80% depending on the track of ERS per lap, so do need a definite cool down lap, recharge, battery lap if you want to do 2 runs on the same set of tyres. I feel like this is the calm before the storm. In a few minutes' time, almost all of these drivers will be out on track. This is the closest battle at the top of the timing screens we've had tonight so far. Q1 it was over 3/10. Same as well in Q2, but now it's only 0.2 of a second separating the top 2 drivers, so the drivers have upped their game in Q3. Gaps are decreasing at the top. And what can Perry Jerry manage on his first flying run? It's a 27.8, just behind Mr. Wiggles, who is on another run, but ducks into the pits. Obviously, as we know, qualifying a very important part of a league race here on the F1 game. Even more so at this track. You can get out in front, get a 1 second lead, escape the DRS and the car behind. Very well could find yourself in charge of a possible race win. I'm sure Perry will be heading back into the pits now. has not been charging the battery on this lap. And Mr. Wiggles is first out. All 10 now in the pits. Very rare that you see that. Usually someone's out on track at all times. Perry will have to get a bit of a move on, really. Just coming into the pits now with 3 minutes left exactly, so we'll have to get a new set of tyres on the car if he has them and come out of the pits almost immediately, because it does take about 30 seconds or so to get out of the pits, and this is the slowest pit lane on the calendar. 37 miles per hour, and boy is it a drag when you're driving in it. Well, I'm glad my batteries went when something wasn't going on. Says that Mr. Wiggles has just started a time lap. There's a bit of a timing glitch there with the lap delta. Mr. Wiggles is actually on an out lap. He's not on a lap time that's over 2 minutes long, so fingers crossed this doesn't affect us too much. Mr. Wiggles, the first one to start a flying lap in this final part of qualifying here tonight. Me too, TD. Tell me about it. Rick Stars retires in the pits and will be content with 9th place at the moment. Unless the later we can get a quicker lap time in. Ghost. John. And flying laps now. Coming across the line now. Miss Fairley. Oh, big slide there for Mr. Wiggles. Living up to his name. Which I gave him. On accident. And Wiggles has invalidated. Wiggles might get round for another run here. So we'll check back in with him towards the end of the session. Ghost Tamino, though, questionable whether he'll get another run in based on where he is on track right now. So this could be it for Ghost. Currently provisional pole on a 27.1. A Sector 2 split coming up very rapidly now in the top right hand corner of your screen. And he's 2/10 up. This could be a 1 minute 26 on the cards, but still needs a good last sector. Someone's had a bit of a spin at Luffields, one of the blue cars. Possibly deflated wing, maybe Joseph or Ryan either. As Ghost comes across the line and does a 26.8 and goes provisional pole by half a second now. John pops up into second place on the line with a 27.3. Decent lap there from John. Personal best for the night. But what about Fairley? Can Fairley bridge that gap to Ghost? Or will he be on the front row of the grid? He will be on the front row of the grid. Only a slight improvement on his personal best here. I think Joseph was the one who had a spin, and Ryan is on an invalid lap. So no improvements there. Perry Jerry also invalidated. Mr. Wiggles is on another run here, and this one is much better compared to his last. What about Pete? Coming through Maggots and Beckett's now. Behind Mr. Wiggles on track. Deflator Wee has popped up in there with the exact same time as Joseph Hales, but because he set it after Joseph, starts in 5th instead of 4th. So Ghost Tamino looking increasingly likely for pole position here, unless Mr. Wiggles can take a whole second out of his personal best in the last... Oh, and it's a spin across the line. Mr. Wiggles, no improvement. Pete across the line. He does improve and improves to 8th, but Mr. Wiggles there with that spin will have to stay 6th on the grid. And that means that this man here, Ghost Tamino, taking pole position once again this season. It was Tamino's 5th pole this season in 13 races. Very impressive stuff from Ghost. And Ghost Tamino, 8th pole position in IIRL in his 25th race here this evening. So congratulations to you, Ghost. Pole position number 5 this season. Fairly possibly had the opportunity there, but only a narrow improvement on his lap, but does get him on the front row of the grid. And of course it doesn't really matter if you're 4 tenths away from pole. If you start on the front row, you start on the front row. Fairly, I'm sure, won't be too disappointed with that. Ahead of John, both the J's on row 3, John and Joseph, and Deflated Wee setting exactly the same time as Hales, but starting on row 3. Mr. Wiggles with that spin at the final corner there might possibly have jumped ahead of those two ahead of him, but has to settle for P6 on the grid here tonight. Perry, Jerry and Pete making it a P row 4, and Ryan and Greg on the 5th row of the grid in Q3. 3 tenths up in first before spin. SMH. I agree with you there, SMH. And a reminder to all drivers, formation lap is off. So in 5 minutes time, I just need to type something in Discord. So then, feature driver, by demand, is going to be T to the D. Yeah, apologies about that, Demon. I have a very short attention span, so I can only do one thing at a time. It's very frustrating. Feature driver this week is going to be TD. While he's chosen to reserve tonight, I'm getting his feature driver in there before he has a chance to back out. Feature driver, in case you're not quite aware, we're new around here, our way of getting to know our drivers. So it's not just a gamer tag on a screen going as quickly as they can, but it's actually a person behind the wheel or controller they're using. TD, 18 years of age, from a place called Leeds in England. Currently working as cleaner, but dream job would be in the police. Hobbies or interests outside of live play: football, do running, like lots of music. Racing on controller. Me too, but he's faster than me, so I always hate him for that one. Favourite driver of all time: Lewis Hamilton. Quite fitting for this track. Lewis Hamilton with the most wins here at Silverstone with 8. As for his best track on the calendar, feel pretty strong at Miami. Enjoy Britain as well. Well, good timing there for the feature driver slot anyway. As for his racing strengths, you think qualifying pace. Shame we couldn't see any of that tonight. Clean driving and strategy, something he views as important in his racing life. It's just hoping for anywhere in the points. His rival. I know TD quite well, and him and 1010 have this kind of rivalry, kind of weird relationship where they insult each other, but they kind of love each other at the same time. It's weird, it's funny. He says his rival is 10-10 because he's a bitch. Brackets, he loves me really. That sums it up. And as for TD in IIRL, 17 races, this will be his 18th tonight, has 1 pole position to his name and 1 podium, 11 points finishes, only the 1 DNF though, so definitely TD doesn't bin it too much. 78 total points and helping out with the streams, 4 of them as well this season. TD racing 4 times, 2 points finishes and 14 points totaled this season. You'll be in Leeds in November. Why will you be in Leeds in November? I would love to know. Get out of my city. I don't know if relationship was the right word there, but definitely their friendship is basically just insulting each other in a really affectionate way. Maybe that's a better way of describing it, but yeah, it's funny to witness. Getting going in just under 1 minute's time. This is your opportunity to grab a drink or a snack, whatever you need to do to help you enjoy this race tonight. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of action. We have hit 8:33 PM, which means drivers can ready up, which they have done. Someone's put something very funny in the Discord about doing a 5-stop strategy. How I wish. So, thrown straight into the mix. No formation lap here, which means Ghost will lead fairly on the front row of the grid for the British Grand Prix. First of 3 races this week in IRL on Twitch. And who is going to get the better start here? Ghost on the outside, on the right-hand side of the track, as we see, has the outside line into turn 1. Can fairly get across and into the lead. Looks like a good start for a McLaren in the midfield. Pete making a space up on Ryan as side by side go Ghost and Fairley is already into the lead. So good start there from Fairley. Deflated Wee is ahead of Joseph and John up into 3rd place. Really good start there from Deflated Wee. Mr. Wiggles and Perry Jerry going side by side in turn 3 are spinning. We have Ghost Tamino from 2nd place. Oh, it looked like there wasn't any contact there, but that remains to be seen. That guy just going wide there, you see in the background, he's in 16th place as Ghost has dropped all the way to 19th on the opening lap as Perry Jerry and Mr. Wiggles still going side by side. Ryan now looking for a move possibly on Mr. Wiggles. They're jockeying, they're switching places into cops, but all nice and well behaved. Well behaved drivers here tonight. Thaddeus Bear's lost a bit of ground as well. He's just behind Ghost out on track, who is fighting to catch up to the back of the train. Thaddeus Bear, first 3 second time penalty of the night through Maggots and Beckett's. As there goes Ryan down the inside of Mr. Wiggles and up into, well, would be 6th place. Bit of contact there. Leaving room. Ryan forces his car ahead there and says to Mr. Wiggles, there is nowhere for you to go here, sunshine. I am overtaking you. Up into 6th place now, Ryan. But he's not quite content with that. He's past John. Both off the track slightly. John's still off the track. Smaller Smiley into the pits where he retires from the race. John not had the best start here. Might have some damage. Definitely is quicker than this. So what has happened to John off this start? Fairly leads Deflated Wee. Had a fantastic start on this opening lap. Joseph Hales, Perry sticking with that top 2, making it a top 4. Ryan has got really, really good pace in this opening session of the race. Oh, a spinning! We have Joseph out of 3rd place. Joseph spins at Copse and has dropped all the way to 16th, 17th now. Mr. Colucci's had an issue on this lap as well. He's dropped down to 18th place. So already 2 of the top 4 runners spinning in the opening 2 laps. And this has massively shaken up the grid order. Fairly... Oh, I've almost forgot. I'll show you what tyres they're on. So Fairly opting for the hard compound tyres. Ghost on the hards too. That might be why he's span on the opening lap. As Perry Jerry gearing up for a move on deflated. Both of these using the mediums in the opening stint. But like deflated, had to go off track there, so may have a warning. And I don't think Perry forced him off track there, but I think deflated was just giving space. Obviously, with these 2 fighting now, Fairly has an opportunity now to put the hammer down as Perry Jerry spins! A trifecta of spins in the opening 3 laps of this race. And that has massively shaken up this order. Massive drama here tonight. Possibly that pressure of having a 15 quid voucher on the line for driver of the day tonight. Possibly that's in people's heads, and maybe it's just a bit of pressure creeping up on them. Ghost fighting his way up the field now to 13th on the back of Pete, who was 18th after the opening lap. So just by keeping it clean, Pete has gained 7 places already. TD has gone from last to 10th in the opening 3 laps. And his teammate Prev ahead in 9th is challenging Deton for a spot in the top 8. As Ghost is overtaken by Pete down the inside 3. Or Ghost going for a move, I think, but Pete fighting back. DRS active now, lap 4 of 26. And there's one of the most routine DRS moves you'll ever see in this league. TD has Dayman behind him. Big chunk of drivers in this midfield opting for the hard compound tyres, between Greg Stars in 7th, Ghost in 12th. So may see an undercut by one of those drivers to try and get an advantage on the rest of that pack. But we'll have to wait a good 15 laps or so. Actually, maybe 12 laps or so for that. So here comes Prev now, using the DRS, past Deton on the hanger straight into Stowe. Gets that move done up into 8th place now. Deflated Wee here is trying to keep 3 extremely fast drivers behind him in the form of Ryan, Wiggles and John. John had the best opening couple of laps, got overtaken a few times and capitalised on a few mistakes from those ahead of him, but now he's got those hard tyres up to temperature. He is doing pretty well, staying on the back of Mr. Wiggles in his Mercedes. Fairly, though, is running the show. 3.7 now is his lead. Mr. Wiggles and Joseph Hales with early time penalties in this race. Might come back to bite them later on if there's a relatively late safety car. The safety cars, of course, bunch the field up, so time penalties means you are vulnerable to losing places when you finish the race. So here comes Ryan now with the DRS. Deflated Wii doesn't have it, but has enough straight line speed to keep him ahead of Ryan. On this occasion, Mr. Wiggles lying in wait. This could turn into a bit of deja vu for Wiggles. I remember last season in an Austria race that he was sat in 3rd place behind 2 drivers, and those 2 drivers ahead were going at it tooth and nail. Mr. Wiggles was just kind of 3rd wheeling almost. This early opening laps reminding me of that exchange. Ghost is past TD, now up into the top 10. And the longer that this carries on, Fairley will be very happy. And what's happened to Greg? Greg Stars has spun at Luffield. Needs to be careful. Those tyres are going to be super hot right now. Was in 7th, Greg, but just now dropping into 12th place, and as Mr. Colucci and that guy behind. TD's also had a bit of a mare on this lap. He's dropped to 15th place and lost a bit of ground too, so possibly spin for the pair of them on lap 6. As Fairley sets a new fastest lap of the race, we'll win at 30.9. Fluke staying out of trouble. Qualified 12th, already up to 6th. So, Fluke. Oh, and Greg Stars once again going for a spin, at this time at the final corner. And losing a lot of ground behind his teammate, now down into 17th place. Joseph Hales now back into the points, into 10th place. With that time penalty, Perry Jerry will be hoping to capitalise on that. TD in the background as 2 Alfa Romeos switch places in Luffield. Ghost now ahead of Deton. Deton can use his teammate's good pace here to try and drag himself closer to Prev, assuming that Ghost will close that gap to Prev in 7th. Deton, if he can stick with his teammate, stick within DRS, might have a nice little route here to try and challenge Prev for 8th. Fairley leads Deflated Wii by 4.7 seconds. That gap has gone down slightly this lap, as Joseph Hales gets another time penalty. 6 seconds now for Hales. Battle at the front. Still, nothing really has changed. Deflated Wii seems to be defending a bit more comfortably now from Ryan. Mr. Wiggles, John still within DRS of the car ahead. And that gap at the front is pretty much stabilised now at just under 5 seconds. Deflated Thaddeus Bear, sorry, comes into the pits to retire the car. Just not quite working out for Thaddeus Bear on this game. Last game we had massive improvements from Thaddeus Bear, scoring points towards the end of the season, but unfortunately this game just doesn't quite seem to fit in well for Thaddeus Bear. It's always a shame when that happens, but fingers crossed Thaddeus Bear can get some momentum in this second half of the season. Perry Jerry past Joseph, who was ghosted, so maybe Joseph has had a moment, bit of oversteer perhaps that has caused them to be ghosted, and Talking of Ghost, Deton is kind of doing what I suggested. He has stuck relatively close to his teammate, and as Ghost starts to enter Prev's DRS range, Deton is only 1.7 seconds behind, so too bad here for two Alfa Romeos. Bit of lag on my screen for Ghost here, just flickering around here and there. Fingers crossed that doesn't distract Prev. Wiggles has passed Ryan in a last lap, but has that time penalty, so Mr. Wiggles here, pressure is on him to try and get that move done on Deflated Wii as soon as he can. Fairly. Around the final corner now to start lap 10 of 26. Expect to see those medium runners into the pits maybe around lap 11 or 12. Might see an undercut happening for some of those medium runners at the end of this lap, lap 10. Those hard tyre runners maybe might go to lap 14 or 15. So in the next 5 laps, we're going to see a lot of people changing positions through pit stops. Not really going to have an idea about who's going to be where. Deflated Wii just missing the apex to Brooklands allows Mr. Wiggles an extra couple of tenths closer to the back of that Alpine. And if Mr. Wiggles can stay this close through Copse, Maggots and Beckett's, then might be a really good opportunity here for Wiggles to get past. Need an invite. It's on friends only, Joseph. You can just join back. Look at you recently played with, find someone and join them. And there we have it. Mr. Wiggles has maintained really good pace there through Maggots and Beckett's and goes past Deflated Wii now into second. And can Mr. Wiggles get any closer to Fairley? Has the time penalty, so the onus is on him to try and get a 3-second gap now on Wee, Ryan and John. But change of position and Mr. Wiggles is starting to put the hammer down. Only 4 people with time penalties in this opening 10 laps. And we have Ghost and Prev. Oh, big lag there. Ghost, bit of a lift off the throttle into turn 1. Prev, really good defender. And has kept Ghost behind him now for a few laps now. Prev trying to break the slipstream. Pretty harmless stuff, but in the end, he felt that move was coming there from Ghost. Alfa Romeo overtakes its big brother, the Ferrari. Ghost fighting back now up to 7th place, has 4.7 seconds now to catch Flew, who is 6 seconds behind this quartet. And John fancies a move here on Ryan. He's very close, closest he's been to the back of that Williams, but just not quite close enough. Ryan, of course, having the DRS from Deflated Wii ahead of him, as Ryan ducks into the pits. We did say that maybe we'll see a pit on lap 11 or 12, and Ryan has gone for it. And really, Ryan is trying to undercut Deflated Wii here, both of them on the same strategy. Mr. Wiggles now through turn 1 getting his 2nd time penalty. That is going to be really costly towards the end of the race, especially if this quartet stay within close proximity of each other. Fairley will be very happy that Mr. Wiggles has time penalties behind. And good evening, Ross. Shame you can't race this week. It's been a very interesting start. We had Ghost starting on pole, overtaken by Fairley into turn 1, as TD gets his second time penalty of the night. Ryan comes out of the pits in a bit of traffic here, has Pete behind on old mediums, looking for a move around the outside of Luffield. Ryan here is losing time, has pitted a lap earlier than Deflated Wee to try and get that undercut and jump ahead of Wee, possibly into the top 2 or 3 pit positions here, but is losing an awful lot of time, and Deflated Wee is now into the pit, so he's responded straight away, and I would not be surprised at all here if Deflated Wee came out ahead of Ryan, maybe TD and Dayman as well. Very slow pit lane, of course, here at Silverstone. Pete is hustling and harrying and drops off into the pits. Ryan comes around the final corner. TD's had a bit of a mare through that final corner, and Ryan's had to back off slightly. But the question is, where is Deflated Wee? He's come out of the pits first corner. He's ahead of Dayman and Ryan. So Ryan, by going for that undercut opportunity, has lost about 3 seconds here. Ryan will have to make this up on track. Deflated Wee, of course, has to warm up those hard tyres. That explains why he's weaving on the Wellington Straight. Call it the Weavington Straight, as Dayman gets time penalty from 9th ahead of Ryan. As Dayman behind, you can just see in the background there, went for a bit of a spin in between Brooklands and Luffield. As up ahead, Wiggles past John. The two of these fighting now. They are on identical tyre strategies. Difference is Wiggles has 6 seconds of time penalties. Fairley leads this race by 7 seconds now. And Fairley here doesn't have to do anything heroic. He has control over this race. Goes Tamino pits from 5th. Oh, Wiggles really struggling on these tyres now. John has an opportunity here. Wiggles without the DRS. Goes to the inside, gets the move done before Brooklands. And John now proud owner of 2nd place. Every single driver, with the exception of Ghost, who has just pitted, is on hard compound tyres. Deflated Wee here needs to get past Colucci as soon as possible. Ryan is past TD and is now starting to close that gap. Was 3 seconds, is now 2, as Joseph Hales sets a fastest lap of the race. Goes Tamino after that pit stop onto the mediums, is now in 14th place after the spin on lap 1 that sent him to the back of the field. Mr. Wiggles now so close to the back of John into Stowe, and both of these are pitting at the same time. Ryan now with a time penalty. Very costly, perhaps, in his enthusiasm to try and catch up to Wee. As Wee makes his way past Colucci. Fairley will no doubt, I imagine, respond this lap by pitting to cover off John and Wiggles, even though they are trailing by 7 seconds. Colucci pits, TD pits. Greg stays out to start lap 15. Oh, and contact there between Mr. Wiggles and Deflated Wee. Coming out of the pits, fighting out of the pits. as Ghost now gets a time penalty from 12th. Seems like all of the people who qualified at the top have either had a mistake or have got time penalties, with the exception of one person, Amos Fairley. Definitely, this does seem like Fairley's race to lose. John boxing, coming up ahead of Deflated Wee, but Deflated Wee just getting a bit of oversteer there. Those hard tyres saying hello, no grip for you today, as Mr. Wiggles capitalising side by side in Stowe, and Wiggles using that outside line perfectly, can carry a lot more speed through that exit of Stowe, and now up into 5th place, where Mr. Wiggles has John on the same compound tyres ahead of him. Ryan, time penalty has possibly ruined his his hopes at a podium finish tonight. Just depends if we and John can carry on keeping it clean. Here comes Ryan now. 2 Brits racing at Silverstone. Williams versus Alpine. France versus England once again. And England wins on this occasion. Williams now ahead of Alpine, but Deflated Wee fighting back. That's the tuck in. Behind Ryan into Copse, these two are losing ground on Wiggles and John now 2 seconds away. But this is a really fascinating battle, as Deflated Wee you just saw there. A couple of warnings there through Moats and Beckett's, and a time penalty added on to Deflated Wee. The only one of that top group without time penalty, apart from Fairley, is John having a fantastic race. The American loving life in England right now. As Fairley pits, Prev pits, and Deton pits, the only 3 not to. Greg also hasn't pitted, currently in 9th place. Fairley is comfortably still in the lead. Was 7 seconds before the pit stops, and has only lost half a second in all of that. This is good news for Mr. Wiggles, the fact that Ryan and Wee are fighting, because Mr. Wiggles' time penalties might not be as prominent, especially Ryan and Wee having them as well. Goes to Mino back up to 6th place now ahead of Flew after his spin in turn 1. He's been fighting up the grid order ever since lap 1. Perigeri after his spin as well. He's not had the same kind of overtaking manoeuvres that Ghost seems to have had so far. Perigeri in 9th place right now. Joseph Hales, after his early mistake as well, he finds himself in 11th place, a long way behind Teton, and with time penalties. TD featured driver had a bit of a spin earlier on, lap 2 or 3. Time penalties for him as well, currently sitting in 14th, having a nice little battle with that guy for 13th place here, as Mr. Wiggles seems to be getting a little bit closer now to the back of John. And this lap, John has gained by over a second on Fairley. Fairley, of course, first lap on the medium tyres for him, so we'll just be warming them up, getting them up to temperature. Fairley doesn't have to take any risks here, and the pressure now is on Fairley to not get any time penalties for the rest of the race. Prev having a nice race. Decent race, started in the top 8, still in the top 8, and might just, if he's lucky, maybe get ahead of Ghost on time penalties at the end of the race. And has a good set of tyres here now on Flew, who has maintained in that top 7 the whole race, pretty much. having a good race of his own. Deton, really good pace in this race so far. 10th place for him. Currently taking home 1 point for Alfa Romeo. As John is loving life on these medium tyres. He is actually quicker than Fairley. John is rapid at this portion in the race. Could we see, in the last 8 laps, a charge from John 5 seconds off the lead to try and potentially win this race? I have to say, it's not been the most dramatic race. There's been no real... There's been a few spins at the start of the race, but since then, all the drivers have... Well, I mean, I'm very, very sorry if that's commentator's curse. There's no such thing, of course, but Mr. Wiggles there, unfortunate with that spin in the final corner. Right as I say, it's a rather dramaticless race. Gummy's curse. No such thing. I bear no responsibility for what happened to Mr. Wiggles in that final corner. Fairley is now responding. Was 5.1 ahead of John, who started to put the hammer down. Now Fairley has responded as Mr. Wiggles gets another time penalty and might find himself under some pressure from Ghost Tamino behind in a few moments' time. TD. Fighting with that guy over 13th place. Won't get him a point, but a nice overtake at Silverstone always fills you with a bit of confidence. That's if I'm streaming, mate. I might not be streaming, you might be alright. So Fairley with new fastest lap of the race. Probably just building that battery storage up. That might be why John was gaining for a little bit. And John, that could be costly. 3-second time penalty. Mr. Colucci back into the pits now, where he retires from the race. Now, TJ, no such thing as a commentator's curse, mate. We all know this. Lap 20 of 26, Fairley has been in control from lap 1 when he took the lead ahead of Ghost. The opening 3 laps saw 3 spins from the top 6, from drivers in the top 6, including Perry Jerry, Ghost, and Joseph Hales. Since then, Ghost has been fighting back and has had really good pace in this race. Unfortunately, that early spin just cost him so much time. Those time penalties may come into effect, but they might be far enough ahead of Flew and Prev and Perry Jerry to maintain their current positions. Closest fight on track, the only fight on track right now, apart from Wee and Ryan, and they've been fighting since the dawn of time, it seems. I love that emote, Pinnock. That is great. Five laps to go, and we will have a look at the penalty situation. There you see it, every one of that top 6, with the exception of Fairley, has a time penalty of 3 seconds. Mr. Wiggles, though, has 9 seconds, so he'll need to stay 9 seconds ahead of Flew if he wants to keep his spot in the top 6. Yep, 10 of the 17 remaining drivers have time penalties. As we said at this track, it's not a killer for time penalties like Canada was last week, but It isn't easy. Let's just put it that way. As Ghost has a bit of a wobble out of Chapel, it looked like. See how Wee and Ryan are getting on. They've been battling for a long time now. It could just be that they're playing a game of chess, these two. Maybe Deflated Wee's just trying to save up his ERS, sat behind Ryan, go for a move in the final couple of laps, or could just be that Ryan is quicker than Wee and has his number on this occasion. But John, really good race from him. Hasn't put a foot wrong, apart from that time penalty, but even without the time penalty, he wouldn't be in contention for the race win here. Fairley has dominated since taking the lead on lap 1. So, some gaps we need to look on. Mr. Wiggles versus Flew. Needs to be 9 seconds in order for Mr. Wiggles to keep hold of his advantage. Although, Prev and Flew renewing their rivalry from last season. Prev, I've often described in IRL as one of the league's greatest defenders, or one of the best that we have in this current batch of drivers. Now has to show us what his attacking skills are like, what his overtaking skills are like. Look at what tyres they're on, as we said earlier on. Prev on the mediums. So there's a bit more grip in this stage of the race. Possibly on the better compounds. Flew 7.2 behind Mr. Wiggles. Mr. Wiggles has 2 seconds to gain in these final 3 laps if he wants to stay in 6th place. Ghost Tamino doesn't need to overtake Wiggles on track here, and he's not going to get anywhere close to Ryan and Wee if he does get past Mr. Wiggles. So Ghost, the best he can hope for here is P5. Ryan and Wee still fighting over that final podium spot. John will be in 2nd place, I imagine. Told you, TJ, there's no such thing as a commentator's curse, mate. What I say has no relation to what the drivers are doing. Oh, and that is costly there. Mr. Wiggles almost condemning himself to 8th place now. Going to lose time as things stand on Flew and Prev, who are battling over 7th place. What will be 6th place, as Mr. Wiggles just lets Ghost through there. Knows that it's not worth fighting. Perry Jerry Deaton due to get some points and have good solid gaps to Joseph and TD behind, who have time penalties as well. This race, dare I say it again, hasn't been the most dramatic. It's been full of time penalties. It's been pretty straightforward on the strategy. No real risks taken, or we had an undercut opportunity by Ryan on Deflated Wee. It didn't quite work, but in the end Ryan has got ahead of Deflated Wee, and that battle is still going on for the final podium spot. Driver of the day will be decided in Discord after the race for 24 hours with a driver vote. I'll give a few different people who I think deserve a shot, and whichever driver wins the vote for driver of the day tonight will win a £15 Xbox voucher from Goldilocks Creative, who is sponsoring the streams all this week. Once again, thank you to Goldilocks for doing that. Don't have to, but you do it out of the kindness of your heart, and makes our streams a bit more entertaining, so thank you very much. This battle is it looked to have got stale, but not anymore. Trevor on the outside, Flew on the inside. These two have had battles of plenty last season. And Prev, on this occasion, has got the edge. Flute, bit of a wiggle. And 2 laps left of this race. Fairley leads by 9 seconds. Cruising home to victory here at his home race in Silverstone. John on course for a 2nd place. After a bit of a shaky opening couple of laps, he's been absolutely brilliant since then. Here comes Flute. Frenchman versus Dutchman on English soil. And France gets back ahead of the Dutch on this occasion. The more that these two fight, you'll notice the interval's gone up now to 10 seconds. If these two fight much more, Mr. Wiggles might be able to get a 12-second gap on Flute and keep 6th place. Ghost Tamino, by the way, is actually starting to catch Ryan and Wee, and he's dragging Wiggles along for the ride. That's why Mr. Wiggles has got that interval up to now 10 and a bit seconds. This is going to be really close on the line as here comes Prev round the outside again. It worked last time and it worked this time. Now 2-1 Prev. As deflated Wee. That's a costly time penalty. 6 seconds now, relegating him to 5th place behind Ghost Tamino, and all but guarantees Ryan's spot on the podium as they enter the final lap of the race. TD stealing the attention, as he loves to do, with another time penalty. But as this race comes to an end, Fairley has led every single lap, all 26. He has been in the leads, even through the pit stop phases. Built up a fabulous 7-second gap before the pit stops. After the pit stops, he is going to win with a 10-second advantage. Comes across the final corner now, spins across the final corner, possibly on purpose, or this might actually be a big mistake, but he reverses across the line to take the win here at Silverstone. John, fabulous race from him. Finishes 2nd and a well-deserved podium. These two have been battling the whole time, but deflated Wee's time penalty means that Ryan has an unopposed charge onto the podium. Goes to Tamino. Great recovery drive after that turn 1 spin. Up into 4th place, and Mr. Wiggles is going to be close, but he is going to lose 6th to Prev and Flew. Prev just getting the better of Flew there on the line. Perry Jerry, early spin, possibly what could have been a podium here tonight for him, but has to settle for 9th. Deaton finishes in the points, 2 Alfa Romeos in the points here tonight. Joseph Hales, again, early spin in the opening couple of laps and just didn't quite have the pace here to fight back. Pete finishes in 12th, that guy 13th, overtaken by Greg on time penalties. TD is doing donuts. What a guy. This is why we love TD. His ability to eat food and do donuts. Maybe he's eating donuts as we speak. Greg Stars comes across the line to finish in 15th. Dayman 17th on the grid. In the race even. And TD across the line, crashing. Oh, he makes me laugh so much, TD. So the games driver of the day is Ryan. However, that is not how we are deciding it. I'm going to choose a few people who I think are worthy of driver of the day. Definitely Fairley's up there. John, after a shaky opening couple of laps, I think he has an opportunity for driver of the day here tonight. Has really good pace and in the end finished 9 seconds ahead of Ryan, which is not an easy feat, I'll tell you that. So, driver of the day opportunities for Fairley, John. I think Ghost has to be up there with his recovery drive here tonight. I'm going to give Deton a spot as well. 15th to 10th, not the quickest in this group of drivers, but still a very solid race. Go from 15th to 10th, ahead of the likes of Joseph Hales, Greg, Pete. No easy feat. So Deton will be in that hat as well. Mr. Wiggles, Perry, Jerry, what could have been races for them, but their own struggles. Prev and Flute, very, very consistent as ever. And they'll be in the hat for driver of the day as well. And a special mention to TD, thank you for the donuts. Greg, once again, being super consistent. Might not have been the fastest out there, but kept it clean as always, gaining places on his grid slot. So in Discord, in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'll be posting that driver vote, and the winner of the vote, yes, if you are nominated, you can vote for yourself, and it's 1 vote per person. So I will be enforcing that pretty strictly. Whoever gets the most votes in 24 hours will win a £15 Xbox gift card, which I will be in contact with. For AMS Fairley, adding to his tally, 7th race win in IIRL. 18th podium for AMS Fairley. Incredible record here in this league, and congratulations for a full 26 points. Ross still leads the championship though, and I'm sure next week in Austria he will be hoping to extend his lead. Just remains me to thank everyone who's been in chat tonight. It's been a really fun stream, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. We are going to raid someone. Really quick guy. FTL Spinala, hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you on Thursday for Assist Tier 1, and we'll see you this time next week where we'll reveal the driver of the days for all of this week's racing here at Silverstone. And have a fantastic week, and we'll see you on Thursday night.